Hello everybody. Next we're going to return to home territory, where we'll play host to Sheffield United. Kick-off on Monday evening is at 6 p.m, with BT Sport picking this one out of the hat for coverage. Put me down for an early dinner then, matron, and I'll skip the apple crumble. The people from Eyes Up Mother Brown will be on duty from about 5:30 onwards, which means they'll be prevented from interacting with the real world for a few hours, which is no bad thing. So Sheffield United then. Well, for a while it looked like they might threaten Derby's record for the worst Premier team ever, but a few wins in recent weeks have put paid to that particular avenue of potential pleasure. Their opening season run of 2 points from 17 games was in danger of rivalling Sean Bean's acting ability. Think Deciduous Forest but more wooden, as the worst thing to come out of Sheffield ever. Top tip, if you ever get the chance to see the film When Saturday Comes, fast forward through the dreadful waste of celluloid to the end credits, where you'll find a note placed at the publisher's insistence that confirms that the magazine of the same name had nothing to do with the appalling embarrassment that had just finished. Not seen it? Lucky you. How can I describe it? Think of a really, really bad football film with no redeeming features whatsoever. Then put Sean Bean in it. Yep, it's that bad. As mentioned, they've picked up most of their points since the turn of the year, having won 3 of their last 6. Those being 1-0 at home to Newcastle, 2-1 away at Man United, and 2-1 at home to fellow strugglers West Brom. The other 3 matches ended in defeat. That's 3-1 at home to Spurs, 1-0 to Man City, and 2-1 at home to Chelsea. That leaves them rock bottom of the pile with 11 points from 23 games. That's 14 points shy of Newcastle, who are currently in the safe seat. Grim times then. One might have thought that in their current position the owners might have had their metaphorical finger poised over the eject button when it came to the position of boss Chris Wilder. However, he's probably using up his copious supplies of goodwill reserves built up over the past few years, firstly by virtue of his being a lifelong supporter, and secondly by virtue of his having led them out of the 3rd tier, eventually bringing them up to the Premier League 2 seasons ago. Funny that they ended up in League One, having managed to extort millions of pounds out of us on the grounds that Tevez was the sole reason they'd been relegated from the Premier League. The relegation to the 3rd tier exposed the whole fuss for the hypocritical money grab that it actually was. Still, those reserves of goodwill will only last for so long, and assuming that they don't find some senile old judge to fall for the words of a journo with a ghost-written book to sell on the strength of the result this time round, Wilder may find himself queuing up with other lifelong supporters come May. Well, it's been another nice break for Daisy, the socially distant, support-bubbling personal assistant with a beautiful smile. Although there was a lot of talk when the transfer window opened of them definitely bringing in 2 on loan, and despite a list of players as long as your arm having been handed over to the owners, it seems that prospective signings all found somewhere else to be when their agents tried to get in touch on deadline day. All of this has left Daisy to be sitting back in the Avram Grant Olympic rest home for the bewildered VIP spa complex, awaiting the arrival of a masseur whilst supping on a long-haul drink. The way things are going, she's in for a nice second half of the season. Daisy did leave me a small note before she headed off. Apart from asking for my drinks order for when I get to the spa myself, Daisy also pointed out that not only is the Sheffield United record this season the worst in the Premier League, it is in fact the worst of all 92 teams in the top 4 divisions. Thank you, Daisy, and make mine a large G&T, please. There was some talk of a move for Billy Sharp to Derby. However, with no new arrivals and a squad sufficiently short-handed on a number of occasions this season to have been comprised of fewer than the maximum 20 allowed, nobody was allowed to leave. Sharp is their 2nd top scorer in the league, with 3 of his 7 league appearances coming off the bench. At the top of the goal-scoring charts is David McGoldrick, who's got 5 in 21 appearances in the league. You may recall he picked up the Irish FA Player of the Year award in 2019, which he celebrated by announcing his retirement from international football a couple of months later. Blades boss Wilder was fulsome in his praise for the striker the other day, saying what a really good bloke he is and all that. It was obviously a slow day at the press conference. Bored of them? Yeah, me too, so let's move on to the wild and wacky world of association football. And well done to the idiot who sent abusive tweets to the family of Mike Dean, thus transforming someone who's consistently cheated the paying public over the years into some sort of victim. Dean asked for the weekend off, citing a need for a break after a long run of matches. Fair enough, Mike. Take the next 30 years as far as I'm concerned. The martyrdom of Dean deflected attention from the fact that he should have been looking at some form of suspension on the grounds that his performances, even by his own warped standards, were well below the level that anyone involved in the game has a right to expect. Instead, he'll get a week or two off and come back to make another set of decisions completely off the chart, while everyone shrugs their shoulders again and wonders why it keeps happening. Elsewhere, Mo Salah won a penalty against insert name here. It's a cut and paste template to save time every week, where he went down far too easily, having received the lightest touch on his insert body part here. The football gods definitely got their revenge for their cheating antics, though, with keeper Alisson being in spectacularly fine form for the Scousers, his kicking having been responsible for defeats at Manchester City and Leicester City. His aim certainly wasn't true. Klopp was at his usual blame-shifting best after the Leicester game, where the home side managed to stop laughing at their opponents for 12 minutes at the end of the game to take the points. According to Klopp, there were no fewer than 3 players offside for Leicester's first goal, as opposed to the none that he might have said had he not been lying through that expensive dental work. Talking of the cheating Scousers brings us neatly onto us by virtue of the fact that a win on Monday will take us above them. More on that in a minute, but first the cup match. Well, the first half was messed up completely by injuries disrupting, well, just about everything. Ogbollers was unfortunate, as was having to replace his replacement in the form of Diop at the interval. Fredericks deputising. We did sit back in the first half, but it was hardly backs to the wall time, even if Fabianski had to make the one proper save of the half. Having sorted out the injuries and everything else, we were more on the front foot in the second period, even though we failed to make the most of it. Extra time became the lottery it always is, and having gone a goal down in the first period, we didn't really have enough in the tank to get the equaliser. Just a shame the otherwise impressive Dawson couldn't quite get his angles just right at the end of normal time. Incidentally, the match was well refereed by Paul Tierney, who went about his work diligently, honestly and unobtrusively. A lesson perhaps for the fourth official and Mr. Mike Dean. I don't suppose he'll heed it though. Yarmolenko became another casualty, bringing young Odubeko into the fray. He looked a little overawed, and later on he became the second sub to be subbed on the evening. A while back I noted the flurry of output from the club's media department praising the youngster to the skies, and I suggested this might be some sort of buttering up exercise to prepare us for the not very surprising prospect of us not signing a replacement striker once Haller had gone, the subtext being that we've already got a replacement. Odubeko may well come good, but there's a reason he hasn't been used up to now. The substitution was a bit tough on the lad, but it'll be a measure of both his own attitude and mental strength, and the man management skills of Mr. Moyes and his coaching staff as to how he comes back. Looking forward to Monday, and the injuries picked up last week will prove testing for our somewhat lightweight squad. Mr. Moyes has described himself as being hopeful that Antonio will be fit. Now, one could take that at face value, of course, but if my admittedly unreliable memory serves me right, every time I've heard the word hopeful in conjunction with Antonio's fitness, he's failed to appear for the match concerned. For that reason, I'm less than hopeful that the lad will appear. Ogbono and Yarmolenko will both be non-starters, but Diop's crock on the noggin seems to be less serious than was first thought, though there may be some sort of protocol for such injuries to take into account. Balbuena was shepherding a calf problem, but for which we may have seen him in the cup match last week. This will leave us a bit short of central defenders if any more injuries occur. Arthur and Randolph complete the injury list, and they're also quite away from returning to contention. The lack of numbers may see a start for young Fredericks, who, in the last couple of games, has looked quite good going forward. On the plus side, Lingard will return to the squad after his administrative absence, which will at least give a brighter outlook on the attacking options. So, prediction then. The Antonio conundrum is a worry, though most sources say he has a 75% chance of being okay, so I'm going to run on that basis. A quiet word to the rest of the team from Mark Noble on how satisfying it would be to help send this lot down wouldn't go amiss pre-match. There will also be a couple of players in there who may not be starters when all are fit, but they should be told what an opportunity this is for them. Over the last few days I've wavered between optimism and caution on this one, but on the whole, with Lingard back on the manor, I think we could well have too much for them, I hope. So the £2.50 that I cannot put towards a self-rewarding pint once I've had my COVID jab, just because the Swan super injunction is still bloody shut, will instead be going on a tight win. I'll meet you outside the vaccination centre, Mr. Winston. Make it 2-1 to us. Enjoy the game.